Hello everyone and welcome to our 5th doctoral seminar for this spring featuring Annmarie Jackson and Cassandra Matthews. Annmarie and Cassandra are doctoral students at Georgia State University. Annmarie Jackson presented at our doctoral web seminars in 2012 with the title of Thinking Strategically, Preparing and Successfully Defending Comprehensive Exams. For Cassandra, this is the first time she's presenting at our doctoral web seminars. We really appreciate that they will be sharing their insights with us tonight. I would like to introduce Dr. Ph.D. Professor at Language and Literacy. She is the founder of Conversations in Doctoral Preparation and Global Conversations in Literacy Research. I'm one of the moderators tonight, Tuba Angay Crowder, doctoral student in the 3rd year at Language and Literacy, Georgia State University. Our other moderator is Jin Jung in our team. She's a doctoral student in her 2nd year at Language and Literacy at Georgia State University. Conversations in Doctoral Preparation are online, interactive, and participatory web seminars for the purpose of preparing doctoral students to work in the academy. We invite you to look at our website and see the upcoming web seminars, as well as to understand the information about our doctoral preparation. Doctoral students of all stages in the program are invited to present. If you're interested in presenting, please contact me, Tuba Angay Crowder, at tangai1@student.gsu.edu or Jin Jung at jink1210@googlemail.com. We are organizing different presentations for 2014 and 2015. These doctoral web seminars can be different types. They can be research-based, so we can present our research, or we can present on some aspects of the doctoral program or in the mentoring ourselves into the academy. Please feel free to chat and ask questions to Annmarie and Cassandra in the chat area. We will collect those questions, or you can just raise your hand here, like this. We will call upon you, or you can ask Annmarie and Cassandra your questions just by speaking into the microphone or computer here. We would like to have you to take the button, one button here, and we would like you have to tell us where you're watching this presentation from tonight. So if you would take your pointer here, click on the star button, and please show us where you're watching the presentation from.
Excuse me, Sandy and Annmarie, would you turn your mic off for a little bit? We're getting a little bit of feedback. Thanks. And then when you're ready to present, you can turn your mic back on. Thanks. Go ahead, Tuba.
Thank you. So we have audience from Chicago and Texas, Atlanta, Metroplex area. Welcome. We really appreciate that you join us tonight. Tonight's presentation by Annmarie Jackson and Cassandra Matthews, our PhD journey, is one of the mentoring sessions that will serve to inform new and current doctoral students with practical suggestions to successfully navigate the PhD program. Annmarie and Cassandra will share insights into the challenges, rewards, supports, and expectations of their PhD experience. Their goal is to provide doctoral students with timely information and recommendations that can help to guide our academic, professional, and personal decision-making while in the program. So we are really excited about having you participate and ask any kind of questions that you have for Annmarie and Cassandra as they are presenting. It's really my pleasure to present Annmarie Jackson, Cassandra Matthews tonight. Annmarie Jackson is a doctoral candidate in the Department of Language and Literacy at Georgia State University. Her research interests include pre-service teacher development and English second language teaching and learning. Her dissertation study examines English speakers of other languages, pre-service teachers' conception of literacy and developing identities as language teachers. Currently, she works full-time as a reading specialist at a Gwinnett County Public Schools elementary school with a large English learners population. Her publication includes Whose Job Is It Anyway? A look at the reading and writing connection, an article in the TEIS newsletter for TESOL. She also leads Language First Ministry, a class serving English second language adults in Atlanta, Georgia. Cassandra Matthews is doctoral candidate in the Department of Early Childhood Education at Georgia State University. Her research interests include teacher development and new teacher mentoring. Her dissertation examines how new teachers participating in an innovative teacher residency program experience mentoring. Her publication includes mentormodules.com, an online multimedia course designed to educate new teacher mentors and instructional coaches. The modules feature original, professionally produced videos, multimedia case studies, hyperlinked resources, and discussion prompts. Cassandra taught elementary school for 17 years, and she is the founding executive director of a nonprofit mentoring program for adolescent girls called Fertile Ground Navy Incorporation. So it's great deal pleasure that I introduced Annmarie Jackson and Cassandra Matthews. They are going to talk about our PhD journey. So Annmarie and Cassandra, you are on.
Thank you. And first, on behalf of myself and Annmarie, we'd like to welcome you all to our session and thank you for your participation and for your attention tonight. We're going to quickly review our agenda. And the topics that Annmarie and I will be sharing or discussing, we'll talk about the challenges that we've experienced as PhD students. We'll also talk about the supports that we have to help us navigate our way through successfully navigate our way through the process. We'll talk about the rewards of being a doc student and also some steps along the way to ensure your success. And we'll talk about some things that we think are very important reminders for you to keep in mind as you go through your program. And we'll also save time at the end for discussion and for questions and answers. But feel free to ask us questions throughout the session as they come up.
So we face many challenges along the way as doctoral students, and some of the challenges pertain to how to balance work and how to balance class and also studying. And for myself, I work full-time, and so each semester, one of the challenges I faced was having to ask my principal for time to leave my job early to head to classes. And so that created a lot of anxiety for me, and then I was often late for classes, and of course you miss some of the preliminary things at the classes. Also, some of the challenges that I faced was there were times when I would head out to school, and I'm getting ready to head to classes, and some last minute things came up on the job, and again these things created anxieties for me. There were also at least, I remember one year, 10 after school things that we had to do at our school, starting anywhere from 5:30 onwards to 7:30, and of course that would be one of the time, or that would be generally the time that I would be in a class. And so again, it's having to be excused or get seeking, that excuse from our permission, if you will, from my principal to not show up for these professional things at my job, and instead, go to school. And so it was always just a hairy situation for me. Deciding what is my priority, which, what's the balance? Where should I strike the balance? And so, it created a lot of anxiety for me. And so, personally, I was glad when my classes were over and I started to move more in the prospectus where I didn't have classes to do, because I didn't have to face the challenges of having to ask for early time release from my job.
And like Annmarie, trying to balance working full-time and attending classes and finding time to study is difficult. So I pretty much stuck to what I call a regimented schedule, where I would pretty much reserve Saturday mornings. I would carve out 3 hours Saturday mornings to read and to write and to study, and about 5 or 6 hours, sometimes 7 hours on Sunday. So it is challenging. I'm sure, well, I'm assuming some people watching us tonight are probably balancing the same thing, whereas you're working full-time as well as taking classes. So for me, I just had to develop a schedule and just try to stick to it as closely as I could. And there were times when you do have to ask permission to leave to get to class on time. But we worked together in the same school, so we were able to, I think, to successfully kind of navigate that and get to class on time, for me anyway. Okay.
And so now we'll talk about the issue of becoming a scholarly writer and some of the challenges we face. For myself, again, because I work, the issue was finding time to study, and coming home in the evenings, feeling very tired. I probably would write for 2 hours in the evening. Pretty much when I had class, when I did my classwork, I would do the lighter assignments during the week. For example, if I had 1-pagers to do, I'd do them, or at least start them in the evenings after school, after my job, and then leave the heavier assignments for on the weekend. And for me, Sundays were the times that I used mostly to do my writing. I'll carve out probably 4 or 5 hours, and I like to sit on the living room floor and just write, turn the TV off and just write, or comb through articles and do what I had to do. And so from early as possible, I try to develop the mantra of trying to work smarter and not harder. And as much as possible, assignments that I had to do. I mentioned one-pagers, many classes. For at least 2 years, I had one-pagers that were due. I kept those from year to year, and because I was advised to keep them and try to link them as much as possible to future papers if I could, or put them into bigger writing assignments. And so that's something that I learned that helped me to work a little smarter.
And for me, becoming a way to become a scholarly writer is to write. And like Annmarie said, just saving time every weekend to actually do that, to write. And I actually took a scholarly writer course, because as I was reading some of the articles, they were pretty dense, and so there were lots of terms I was unfamiliar with. So I wanted to develop my writing where it sounded scholarly, where it included the kinds of language that I was seeing in some of the journals and some of the research articles that I was reading. And in the course, I would study some of the writing styles that I would come across in my reading, and I would kind of adapt my writing to the writings that I found interesting. And of course, there was lots of language. There were words, again, that I was unfamiliar with that I would actually make sure that I would include in my own writing. And the two takeaways, I guess, from this developing as a scholarly writer course that I took, one was to use an active voice when I'm writing, and to omit needless words. I would kind of think initially, like, if you use a lot of words and you're using language, that it would sound really scholarly, but the important thing is just to be concise and very succinct in your writing. And there's a book, The Elements of Style by Strunk and White. It really helped me with my writing as well. So again, becoming a scholarly writer would involve just writing and saving time during your week to do that. Okay, our next point is feeling like you don't belong. And when I entered the doc program, I was a little nervous, entering as a brand new doc student and not really knowing what to expect. And there's all this language going on, and the discourse that's taking place in the courses. And I questioned, is this for me, or do I belong here? So it took a minute for me to find my voice, but I did feel like a poser, almost like I was pretending to be this brilliant person, but I just had to develop, I guess. And in talking to other doc students, I learned that they were experiencing some of the same things that I was experiencing. So it was comforting to know that I wasn't the only person. And as I kind of matriculated through the program, I did find my voice and my confidence. So I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but know that it's natural, that you're not strange. It's a part of the process, at least for me anyway, and many other people.
And then now,
yes. Could we ask Sandy a question? Sandy, when you talked about I don't belong, could you talk a little bit about how long it took for you before you felt like you started to become a scholar and to find your voice, and what does it mean to find your voice?
For me, I would say it took probably the first 2 semesters. I took philosophy of education in the beginning. I took an advanced child development course. So it was a struggle. The readings were a struggle, and just kind of getting underneath of some of the theory that I was unfamiliar with. But I just allowed myself to not know. I allowed myself to question and ask and speak with other people in my classes, and to run things by Annmarie. So I would say it took at least two semesters for me to feel confident in my writing. And you asked about what was your other question, Dr. Elbert?
Yeah, it's really about how did you know that you found your voice, and what does that mean?
Okay, good question. For me, initially when I would read, I would assume that the authors were right. I was like, well, they're scholars, they must know, they've written this, it's published. But in class, when we would discuss the articles and people were arguing against some of the things that we were reading, it's like, oh, that's allowed? You know, I didn't necessarily agree with this person. That wasn't my experience, or that wasn't the meaning that I took away from it. So it's almost like through the course discussions, it's almost like I was given permission to have my voice be heard and my position argued, and not always agreed with, but it just created space for me. So it just took a minute for me to get comfortable enough to say, well, wait a minute, I don't agree with what this person is saying, with their interpretation. And that took a couple of semesters to do, to feel comfortable enough to do that. Oh, okay. Yes, Peggy. Yeah.
We can relate to Peggy mentioning that she felt that way too. And also for myself, my very first course that I took, I remember feeling like I didn't belong when I heard one of the assignments or presentation forum that my professor mentioned was to do a Prezi paper. And I remember asking, what's a Prezi paper? I've never, up to that point, I'd never heard that term before. And also symposium as a form of a presentation in the class. And so from very early, I had to learn just different terminologies, if you will, at the academia level, and start situating myself as a doctoral candidate or prospective candidate, and tell myself it's going to be okay. It's a growing process, and I will grow into it. And so I took that attitude, and it was helpful.
And to ask a question about writing and finding our voices without writing. And for me, initially, I just wrote how I knew to write. And I would look at some of the other authors and how they wrote. I would pay attention to, again, some of the language and just some of the style. And I kind of modeled some of my writing after what I was reading, and also looking at the feedback that I got from my professors. And I think that's when my confidence started to build, in that they were giving me feedback. They were questioning some of the things that I wrote about, but I think I got a lot more positive feedback. So I think I kind of internalized that, like I must be doing something right, and that's how my confidence grew. And I felt like, okay, I have something to say, I have something to contribute, to this conversation, and it's valued.
Just one more quick question. Did you ever feel like you didn't belong because you were both part-time?
I think that may have been a part of it, because when you are part-time, you go to classes, you engage with the people in class, and then you're back to work. So I think when you're immersed in the culture and in the learning community full-time, I do think that you would feel more of a sense of belonging, because you're having conversations with people in the department more regularly, so you do feel a part. Whereas when you're part-time, that's it. It's like you're in class, and so you have to be very intentional about building your learning community. And I think that Annmarie's department, I think with your support group, and she'll talk a little bit more about that later in a few minutes, is important. It's just finding a group of people in your department and sometimes outside of your department for support. So definitely, I think being part-time does feed into feeling like you don't belong. I would say yes.
And I can recall too having a professor who from semester to semester, from year to year, because I've been in the program. This is now 5 years. Would encourage me as much as possible to try to take a year off and dedicate to my studies full time. And her reason for that was that I would feel like I belong more, and also I would grow more professionally. I wasn't able to do that, but Sandy did. And so if it's something that you can do, that is take time off, a sabbatical for a year or so, it can definitely help you to grow professionally, and it can strengthen, and of course, help you to get through the program even much quicker.
Thank you.
Okay. Support is so important in this program, and Annmarie and I are fortunate enough that we worked together before. Like you said, I did take a year off this year to finish my program, but prior to this year, we worked together, so we kind of supported one another in many, many ways. We would discuss our classes that we were taking. We're in different departments, so we would talk about our coursework. We would also talk about our research interests because they changed as we kind of continued through the program. We thought we wanted to research this, but the more we read and learned, we were kind of changing our ideas, so we would talk about that. We would share resources that we both had, and we would read each other's work and kind of offer constructive feedback. So it's important, you know, that you have someone in your space that you can, especially someone who's going through the program at the same time, so they understand the stress, they understand, you know, just what you're going through. So we were fortunate in that we had each other to support each other.
Yes, and in my department, the Language and Literacy Department, 7 of us would meet from very early. I think from the very first year, we formed a group, and we, especially as we were heading close to the comprehensive exam, we started to meet, and we decided that we were going to, since we knew we had 4 questions, or 4 topics rather, for the Language and Literacy Department, comprehensive exam, we divided up had different people assigned to find articles, let's say for reading theories, articles for language, articles for writing, and then of course a theory. And then we would meet, it could be at someone's house, or sometimes we met at the university, sometimes we met at a coffee shop, and we would just comb through the material, and then we would have different folks type up information and cite the references. And so by the time our comprehensive exams came around, we were able to put everything up and upload in Dropbox, and then we were able to just go in and cut and paste and take whatever we needed. It was like a resource. Putting everything in Dropbox, and then we were able to use that as part of our comprehensive exam, and it just made it much more easier for us. And then as we meander our way also through to the prospective stage, we did the same thing. We would meet at whoever was going to be presenting or defending rather, we would meet at that person's house, and then we would have, that person would practice in front of the other members in the group, and then we would provide feedback to each other. Pretty much they would operate as if they were a part of the committee, and they would throw questions at us or ask us, why did you include that? Could you find another way, or pretty much give us that rigor, or help to train us for the rigor that we were going to face as in defending the prospectus. And so that was very, very helpful, and it continued on even into the for some of us in the dissertation phase. And so if at all you can find or find ways to carve out a support group for your comprehensive exam, for your prospectus, and even for you to practice for your defense. It really helps along the way.
In the early childhood department, we have a intro to doc studies course that's actually required. And I think that's the department's way of being very intentional in terms of providing support for new doc students. So in the course, we would discuss what we consider burning issues, like things that we thought we may want to research. We talked about the challenges, that we faced or encountered in the program. We critiqued each other's writing. And also our professors showed us how to navigate the digital university library, how to access EBSCOhost, and also how to use EndNote in Zotero to save your citations. All those things were new, to me and to many of us. And then other students who were further along in the program, they would come back and share their experiences. Sometimes we would have a closed door session where the professor would leave and we were just there with, doc students where we could just be honest and ask questions and kind of express our concerns. So that was our department's way of having us kind of support one another. And some of those relationships carried on beyond those semesters that we had to take the class, but it was just really helpful when you enter into a program to have a group of people who are having similar experiences, but also having a professor to help you kind of figure out all of these things that you don't know in the beginning of the program. Accountability partners, yes. We love your comments. Accountability partners, yes, definitely. Yes.
And then the next area of support, or one critical area of support that you should never forget, of course, is your committee members. Well, first of all, your advisor. You, as much as possible, you have to honor the feedback that you get from your advisor, and always see that they have your back, that they have your best interests at heart. And as much as possible, try to, tell yourself from early that you're going to put in the best effort to work with your advisor, because they are definitely going to prepare you as best as possible for you to ultimately become defend at the end of the day. So be open to any suggestions that they have to give you about revising how to revise your draft, and also welcome any feedback that they give you. And in my case, with my advisor, I was prepared to do, and I did tell her, I was prepared to do as many revisions as she wanted me to do, because I knew that she was helping me to make my paper, to help me when it was time for me to defend my perspective. She was definitely helping me to make it be defendable. And so I was prepared to do as many revisions. And there were times when I felt, okay, I am ready, this is good. And then she would send back to me and say, okay, well, I need you to move this around. What do you mean by this? And so it was tiring, but I would quickly say to myself, this is for my good. And so it helps to definitely have that approach that ultimately your advisor is definitely supporting you for the good at the end. And then, of course, the other committee members are critical for support also, because they're all going to read your prospectus, your cons, your prospectus, and your dissertation, of course. And so finding time to meet with them and find out from them if there are, for example, other people that they would want you to include in your writing, if there are other research they would want you to look at, that's critical for you to do. And then it will definitely help you to have a stronger paper. And also, if you meet as often with them and try to square away what is it they want to see in the paper, it will cut down on the probability of you not passing a let's say a comps or a prospectus, because then there would not be any surprises when you go in for the defense. So try to meet as often as you can with them. And don't underestimate your family members and your friends, because I find it helped me to explain to them from very early in the program that I'm going through this program, especially the fact that I work. There will be time that I will need to carve out for work to dedicate to doing my papers, and so I wouldn't be able to go on all the trips that they wanted me to go on. This is my family and my friends. I wouldn't be able to go and you know, just spend time as I used to, but just letting them know it's not going to be that way for all time, but it's just I have to carve this time out right now. There are other ways too that my family members were helpful. My husband, for example, helped me to type. He would help me to type some of those one-pagers and even much more. And he would often joke about having his name on my degree at the end because he helped me in so many ways. So definitely have your family members if they can help you with typing stuff or helping with any anything that's critical towards you getting through the program. Then it's definitely helpful.
Okay. In addition to that, I just wanted to say to make sure that you carve out time for yourself. And even if it's a 30-minute walk or, take a Zumba class, or just do something for yourself for your mental as well as your physical well-being. And I would definitely encourage you to include your family in the process, whether you would have them read papers and give you feedback and see if your writing is clear, if they're able to understand it, although you may want to include some of that scholarly writing and vocabulary we talked about. But I would definitely encourage you to invite your family to be a part of your PhD journey as well. Art therapy, yes. Okay, next we just want to talk about the rewards, of being or completing this program, or at least it's getting to the point where we are now. And I celebrated a lot on my last day of my final class, and that's when I think the realization set in, like, yes, I really can do that. I can do this. My graduate research assignments, I was a part-time graduate research assistant every semester, including the summer, and luckily my assignments were aligned with my research interests. So I was fortunate enough to work with someone in my department. They were working on a grant-funded project to develop these training, digital training modules for teachers who were interested, or coaches who were interested in becoming a new teacher mentor. And through that work, I had the opportunity to design the modules, which were launched last summer. And although I had a lot of experience, with planning and developing staff development, like at my school, my teaching apprenticeship at the university level was it was scary. And I know not everyone watching us tonight attend Georgia State, but I'm pretty sure in your program part of it is a teaching apprenticeship. And that was the first time I'd ever taught at that level. So it was scary, but I had a great person that I co-taught with. It was a teacher development course, again, aligned with my interests, and also something, it was content that I was very familiar with, and I was able to use some of the content from the modules that I built into the class, and I was able to get feedback from the students in the class on the content and kind of ways to improve it. So once my courses and my apprenticeship were completed, there was just a sense of just of completion, at least in that leg of the journey. But I also knew that comps and my perspectives was next. And then we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a few seconds.
And some of the rewards are related to the feedback that, of course, you get from your peers as you go along, and your course professors, as we indicate, they are like the wind beneath your wings. encouraging you along the way as much as possible. And professional development that may happen, being able to present at conferences with, let's say, your professor, and also with your colleagues, and that's helping you to develop as a professional as you head out into that arena, and also as you some may intend to work in academia, and so also having the potential to co-author with professors or even with other colleagues, those are definitely rewards that you may get. And so, and of course, for myself, just being able to become a better writer. I thought I knew how to write, but until I became a doctoral student, and I'm still learning. I'm definitely still learning, but at least it's much improved. And so definitely the fact that my writing has enhanced has definitely helped me to feel more confident as a writer. And do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. For me, like she talked about with writing, I definitely developed my writing skills, but also my critical thinking skills. And I learned how to, as I'm reading, to really think critically about what it is I'm reading, and not necessarily just read it and just, like I was talking about earlier, just assume like this person must be not necessarily right, but that I just have to kind of accept their position. I think that my communication skills have improved. I'm not a fan of necessarily presenting in front of an audience, but I have presented at conferences, and even tonight and some other things that I've done has kind of pushed me to do that. So I think my communication skills they've improved, and I'm also developing my skills as a researcher. Although I'm a novice researcher, just learning how to code and how to analyze data and things like that. And most importantly, this program definitely warrants a certain level of resiliency and persistence. So I've learned how to prioritize certain things. Annmarie mentioned this earlier, where with so many things having to be done, you do have to prioritize, and sometimes the things that are less important, you have to kind of let those things go. But even in the midst of feeling kind of overwhelmed with work and with my work with my mentoring program and courses, again, I just look to my support system, for strength and encouragement, because quitting is not an option. And then, of course, one of the other rewards is upon completion in the school system. We get a raise, and that's always nice. Too.
And for us, ultimately, it's that self-actualization. Knowing that for me, I had always had the goal of wanting to obtain the doctoral, but I do have two kids. They're grown now, or one is 18. But I waited for quite a while before I got started to pursue the doctoral program. But I always knew that I wanted to get it done, because having the doctoral degree definitely will open other options. It definitely will help you. For example, if I want to work in academia, I can do that. I can also work internationally if I choose to. I just think it gives you so many other options to having the doctoral degree.
And for me, I mentor young girls, and most of the girls in our program are inner city youth. And so part of me finishing is really demonstrating to them that it's possible. So I'm doing it for me, and I feel like, part of it is just to show them what's possible as well. So that's pretty important to me.
And I think also, I can't tell you the amount of people on my job who will often ask me, how is it going? When are you going to be done? Even today, what is it you're going to do after you're finished? And so I somehow always try to turn the conversation back to the individual who is asking me, to encourage them as much as possible to pursue, if not a doctoral, to further their education. And so for me, it's rewarding to be, and to hear someone saying I am a role model to them, and then to encourage them as much as possible to further their education.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about some steps along the way.
So from as early as possible, try to maintain a journal of your research interest. Any thoughts that, or areas that you think you might have an interest in, you may want to jot it down. And know that that might change. Because for me, initially, I had a research interest to do with researching teachers at my school and, building in some professional development with them. And as it is, my research just did not, number one, it did not take place at my school. It did not include in-service teachers. It includes pre-service teachers, and so it totally changed. However, the initial ideas were able to inform what I ultimately settled on.
And you can use your research journal as a springboard for determining your cognate. You want to make sure that you select courses that will inform your research. And for me, I was torn between youth mentoring and new teacher mentoring. New teacher mentoring is my, I'm very, very interested in that, but youth mentoring is my passion. So I was kind of torn in between the two. So I did take some additional courses, examining motivation and behavior, and also the sociology of inner city children. But I ended up researching teacher development instead. So you just want to make sure that your courses are aligned with what you're interested in a way that you can use some of the assignments for the courses that you're taking to help you with your comprehensive exams.
And then choose the committee members as much as possible that are aligned with your research interest. Then we advise that if you can have a methodologist on your committee, because they can help you with the methodology section of your study.
And in terms of preparing for your comprehensive exams, I met with all of my committee members, and I talked about what my research interests were and also areas where I felt I needed to become more knowledgeable. And for me, it was really the theory behind teacher development and new teacher mentoring. And in preparing and getting ready for the questions that I knew were coming, I pulled all of my notebooks and my journal articles and all the research that I had on things like constructivism and adult learning theories and stages of teacher development. And I also started reading the papers that I'd already written just to kind of remind myself, like, this is what you know, Sandy. You do know a lot already about this topic. And one of the things that I'll suggest to you, which was advice given to me that I didn't unfortunately follow, is to maintain an annotated bibliography for each of your articles. It'll save you so much time later, because what ended up happening was a lot of the articles I had to go back through, and although I had highlighted and made notes, I had to go back through and read them, some of them again. So you may just want to just do that in advance and just keep everything in a nice, neat file. Yeah, I didn't do that, so I hope that you will. It'll save you time when it's time for a conference.
Dr. Albers,
Yes.
We're just going to switch to, because we're watching the time, and we want to save some time for any questions. So just some reminders that we have here is to back up your work as much as possible in different forums, external hard drive, Dropbox, cloud, because in case one area fails, you have the other area. And as much as possible, seek opportunities to present at local and national conferences, and of course, always, even if they don't get published, try to submit your writing. Are there any questions?
If anybody would like to ask their question live, please just raise your hand and we'll go ahead and invite you to do so. Stacy writes, what format did you use for comps, at home or on campus, and why?
I did at home because you had more time. I had I had 4 weeks to work on question 1, and I submitted, and then I had another 4 weeks, questions 1 and 2, and then I had another 4 weeks for, I chose to develop a syllabus. And I felt like I could work at my own pace, and I just felt that on campus, where you only have so many hours, although you can bring in as many resources as you feel like you may need, I felt like that would be too much pressure. So for me, it was just better to take it home. It was stressful anyway, but it was stressful in kind of on my own terms. I worked at my own pace, and yeah, it was just better for me.
And I am seeing that question about how long it took to complete. I started in fall of 2008, and right now I'm finishing up. I'm writing my report for chapters 4 and 5, and so I hope to defend my dissertation in the fall.
Okay. I'm trying to look at the other question.
JC asks, how did you balance the time stress for writing the thesis and paper publishing? And which should be more valuable at different stages of the PhD? Excellent question.
Really? I didn't publish much because I did have so much going on. I developed the modules, and then I had to create a manual for the facilitators, and so that's my one publication. I think Annmarie has some.
I have one publication myself. I did 3 conferences, but it was a choice I had to make. It's very hard to work and balance everything as a doctoral student. And so now that I have, I no longer have classes, and I am writing my report. I've started taking on writing art, trying to write articles for publication. And so, because I do find myself with a little bit more time now to aspire to publish.
Okay.
Will you talk a little bit about your presentations at local and national conferences and how those worked into your PhD program?
For me, it was part of my GRA work where I presented at a national conference at the Professional Development Schools Conference, and there was some research I was doing in the specialist program. And so I was invited to present my findings there, and so that was a great opportunity. And that was my first conference, and it was a national conference. So, and I did it 2 years in a row. The second year, I just, again, through my GRA work, I coded data, and so I just went and just supported the professor that I was working with. The local conferences are conferences right at Georgia State. I did the, a couple of weeks ago. Oh, that was a conference put on Youth at Risk, and I talked about my program, not necessarily my research. But I've any opportunity and any time that I have, it's like we see things all the time where they'll have calls for proposals, and I just kind of pick and choose things that I feel like I have time to prepare for. But usually, I think starting out, a lot of the local conferences here, right here in Atlanta, would be a good way to begin.
And one international conference that I had 2 years ago was the IRA, the International Reading Association, where the AUA, which is the local IRA chapter at our university, we went and talked about what we were doing in the community to help support our reading students, reading, or just other projects that we were doing on the local level. So it was good presenting at a national conference.
Any other questions?
Yeah. JC has another question which asks, do you think that you should publish preferably at a later stage of the PhD? Would that make one's CV less competitive?
You may be able to speak more to this, Dr. Albert. I wouldn't think that at a later stage, I mean, when you're in the midst of the program, a lot of times that's what you don't have a lot of time, as Annmarie said, so it's not until you're kind of nearing the end, unless you co-author with your advisor or with someone on your committee, that's a way to kind of, get published as well. But trying to do a piece on your own, it just depends on how much time you have. So I think even if you publish towards the end of your program, I don't know if it necessarily matters. Most importantly is that it's published and it's on your vita. So I don't think it matters. And maybe Dr. Albers, if you could speak to that.
I certainly can, and I'd like Peggy to weigh in too. Peggy Simpson, Peggy, do you want to say anything about this?
Oh, hi y'all. About publishing during grad school. Yeah, I did. I was at UT Austin, where actually some of your current faculty went to grad school. Caitlin and Laura and Carolyn.
Hey, Caitlin.
Yeah, she's great. We did some book clubs together. I think Caitlin started the book clubs, and we had various book clubs. We did the Bakhtin book club 3 times because we didn't understand it. Yeah, ask her about that. Anyway, I would just say work with as many different faculty as you can with writing. I had a big publication with Randy Bomer during grad school, and that was like really a powerful piece that came out. But I think it's great to work with different people just to learn different things. I had a book chapter with another professor, and that was more practitioner-oriented. So it was neat to be able to write both research and practitioner, just to see that not everything is, not all of your writing is for high, top-tier journals. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Thanks. I think that's really good advice, Peggy. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. Any other questions for us?
I think JC has an interesting comment. I think it really depends on your goals, JC, as to what conferences and publications you work towards. If you're looking for a national search at a top research institution, then you should be presenting early in your program at Literacy Research Association, National Council of Teachers of English, NACE, could be, if you're English as a second language, NABE, different AERA, of course. That's really good. Thank you, Peggy. And you should also be publishing with your advisors early on, if that's possible. And like Peggy talked about, writing with Randy Bomer, and writing with Beth Malik, and having colleagues like Caitlin and Laura, it's really critical that you try to see some avenue for your own work. So that was a really good question. Okay. All right. I think we've come to the end of our presentation, and so Tuba, you are on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Annmarie and Cassandra. We would let's all write something in the chat area, some comments that you learned or that you would like to say, Annmarie or Cassandra, about their presentation. We always like to get a little bit of feedback from you. And I really want to thank Annmarie and Cassandra. Their insights into our PhD journey is very keen. They offered some wonderful tips and advice on this process. I really appreciate that. Annmarie and Cassandra, thank you very much. We really appreciate you speaking with us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
I also would like to have you to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter with the hashtag at doctoral_prep. You can watch the archived web seminars on our YouTube channel as well. And please share this information with your colleagues. I also would like to alert you to the upcoming web seminar for spring 2014. We have Ms. Danielle Hilaski, who is presenting on April 17th. And she will be talking about working smarter, not harder, and preparing the pre-qualifying package. This is the last web seminar in our spring series. We will continue to presentations in fall 2014. I really hope that you will put the date of Daniel Hilaski's presentation on your calendar. Please spread the word. You can invite people to present with you. Perhaps you have friends from another university, or you have colleagues from different parts of the world who may want to present with you. That would be great. We also would like to announce the important dates from Global Conversations in Literacy Research series. We have the upcoming seminar from Dr. Brian Street, who will present at 11 a.m. with the Eastern Time Zone on April 27th, 2014. His title is The Letter Project, Learning for Empowerment Through Training in Ethnographic Research. Please put dates on your calendar. Thank you for all coming here tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you in class or campus or any offline and online spaces. Good night and thank you very much.